Liverpool and both know that the tie cannot be won in the first leg of their last 16 Champions League clash, but it can certainly be lost, or at least made considerably more difficult. The big question is whether or not is fit enough to start after picking up a shoulder injury, though the Uruguayan is going to be desperate to play a part. Elsewhere, there are not too many dilemmas, with the likes of unlikely to be on the bench but the starting team from the win over Newcastle United unlikely to be vastly different. Qatari interest in Liverpool takeover, stifled, as pursues long-term transfer plan. These are the teams that some of our writers would select for the massive clash with at Anfield, where the atmosphere is sure to be electric. Defensive tweak. Ideally, Liverpool will stick with the same team again here. Any changes can be made in the game next weekend against Crystal Palace if Klopp needs to manage some minutes. There are only really two questions for me. Firstly, whether replaces Joe Gomez, a coin toss, like it was at the weekend, for me, and secondly, whether Núñez is fit. I'll go with Matip at the back to keep things fresh, though neither he nor Gomez fills me with confidence, and then Núñez should be available if he can play through the pain. That would leave the likes of Roberto Firmino and Harvey Elliott as options off the bench, as well as, who should be confident of getting a second-half run out no matter the score. Trent Alexander-Arnold is a booking away from a suspension, but he has to play regardless. The suspension threat is only wiped after the quarter-finals are completed, so he has 4 whole games to get through, including 2 against Vinicius Jr. My starting 11: Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Matip, Van Dijk, Robertson, Fabinho, Henderson, Bajcetic, Salah, Gakpo, Núñez. Predicted scoreline: 1-1 draw. One thing to watch: can Liverpool exact revenge on at last? Well, no, not tonight. Revenge would be knocking them out, which will have to wait until next month, if it happens. Jota starts. I am more or less of the same mind when it comes to limiting the amount of changes to a winning team. In fact, that's enough to tip the balance in favor of Gomez for me, continuing the title-winning partnership with Van Dijk that was restored to great effect against Newcastle. It's more of the same in midfield, too. Incredibly, Bajcetic has effectively made himself undroppable for this huge game, although Liverpool fans should not place too much pressure on his shoulders. Fabinho and Henderson have just about done enough to earn the manager's trust again, although Klopp should not hesitate to call on Naby Keita if it looks like the Brazilian in particular is struggling. I am very keen for Núñez to play, and ideally to start. His involvement is a major reason for my surprising confidence going into the game. But if there is any kind of risk involved, and only he and the club will know for sure, then he should be restricted to a bench appearance. We know how dangerous he can be as a substitute, and the returns of Jota and Firmino have provided more than capable alternatives. My starting 11: Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Fabinho, Henderson, Bajcetic, Salah, Gakpo, Jota. Predicted scoreline: 3-1 to Liverpool. One thing to watch: Núñez to have his say, in some capacity. Ben Boxic, Liverpool remains unchanged. I can't see Klopp changing a winning formula, especially if Núñez is fit. So I would ideally keep the same team that has started against Newcastle United and Everton, with the exception of Van Dijk for that one. Defensively, Matip was a close shout for me to start, but I think Gomez has the extra pace needed to handle a side who will be dangerous on the counter. In the Champions League final, Klopp went with Konate over Matip for that very reason. This time around, he obviously doesn't have that option, so I expect him to stick with Gomez. The rest of the back line picks itself based on form and senior rank. In midfield again, I think it will be a bold call, but in this form Klopp shouldn't even think about dropping Bajcetic. He's been Liverpool's best midfielder ever since he came into the side, and while it will be a big test up against, it's a challenge he is ready to take on. Alongside him, Henderson and Fabinho are the obvious choices in midfield due to their experience, which will also be vital in this game. Up top, Klopp has the luxury of rotating a little bit, but I would stick with the attacking formula that finally clicked against Everton and Newcastle if Núñez is fit. The trio of Núñez, Gakpo and Salah has worked well in recent fixtures and they complement each other. Meanwhile, having players like Jota and Firmino coming off the bench will be a huge boost as well. My starting 11: Alisson, Alexander-Arnold, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, Fabinho, Henderson, Bajcetic, Salah, Gakpo, Núñez. Predicted scoreline: 2-0 to Liverpool. One thing to watch: Gakpo to score again and Jota to come on and end his goal drought to continue Liverpool's run of 2-0 victories. Gerrard knows Liverpool finally has edge despite Modric's warning.